Hey guys, welcome to the Notorious.tv. This is where I cover stories that are scandalous, eccentric, and over the top. Today, we're debunking Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's argument that it would be too difficult to regulate the state's hemp industry. So let's talk about it. When it comes to banning hemp in Texas, we all know that Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is full of excuses. Most frequently, he has spearheaded his effort under the guise of protecting children. He accuses the industry of marketing to kids and intentionally setting up shop near schools. But another argument we heard at his post-veto press conference was how difficult it would be to regulate the Texas hemp industry, as if to suggest it's just not worth the effort or just cannot be done.
I'm staying with the ban because we cannot regulate. And even if you go to 3%, there will be bad actors. You cannot regulate 8,000 stores. Law enforcement knows that. So you can't regulate it. And we talked about it during session. Can't do it. And the members decided the only way we can address this is to ban it. Well, the idea that somehow we're going to have this new testing and they're all going to be responsible for their own factories to test the products, it's ridiculous to think that even in the state of Texas, with 80,000 law enforcement officers, that we can inspect 8,000 to 9,000 shops. It's not possible.
In my last video addressing the SB3 veto, which I will link above, I shared some comments from YouTube from people reacting to some of Dan Patrick's remarks, and this one really stood out. This person said, "What do you mean you don't have enough people to regulate the hemp industry? You regulate everything else?" And so that got me to thinking, I mean, what a profound statement. I think when the average person considers that there are around 8,000 licensed hemp retailers in the state of Texas, it does sound overwhelming. It sounds like a massive undertaking, and therefore we might falsely assume that Dan Patrick is making a valid point. But for comparison, there are more than 70,000 licensed beer retailers in Texas, not to mention the approximate 3,200 liquor stores, 280 licensed distillers and bottlers, and 360 plus breweries, not to mention 400 wineries. So alcohol is obviously the most obvious comparison here, but let's look at another vast industry in Texas that the state has no problem regulating: jukeboxes. So this came up last night as my brother and I were having a conversation discussing this issue, and he told me that years ago when he had a standing DJing gig at Fast Eddie's that he ran his sound through their jukebox. But one night he came in and noticed that there was a ceiling notice on the jukebox from the Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts. And here's a picture he took because, you know, it was kind of a rare sight to see. And all these years later, he still had it. And these tags are put on jukeboxes that are non-compliant, obviously, or don't have a permit. So this made us ponder how many jukeboxes must exist in the entire state of Texas. And I couldn't find that figure in my research, but it must be a lot, right? Yet the state has never once suggested that we ban music in public places because of the high volume of jukeboxes. The state of Texas didn't shy away from regulations just because it's a huge undertaking. And that means that Dan Patrick's argument for banning hemp due to the massive regulation effort is officially debunked. That's all for now, but be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.